Hey folks, we're going to do some game design tonight. We're working on Bastion campaigns for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, 24 rules. Give me a second here to check in on my signal, make sure that I'm coming through clearly. I'm going to do some quick social media posts, and then we're going to do some game design for a couple hours. So, mic check, 1, 2, 3. See if I'm coming through okay. Check, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it sounds nice and clear. Cool, let's drop that volume down so it's out of the way there. I'm going to grab this link here for us to be able to update our social medias real fast. If you're already familiar with the channel, you can skip ahead a minute and we'll get into it. But for the time being, you don't. I don't know the link for the live stream until it actually goes live, which is why you normally see like a 5-minute countdown when people are going to go live stream on YouTube, so they have time to grab all the social media posts and do all the things to announce that they've gone live to folks that might care. I'm not that sophisticated. I just kind of dive in blind, and instead of giving you a 5-minute countdown with some music you've heard, I regale you with this story that I'm telling you now. So, hey, my name's Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them, and I publish online. I've been a DM since 1987. I've been a freelance illustrator since 1999, and I have been creating content for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition since 2018. Back in the 80s, to the day of BX and Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. It was once you gained like 9th level, or like in the Oriental Adventures, it was as early as 4th level, you began accumulating followers and territory, or like a temple, or a church, or a fortress, or a wizard's tower. But you start establishing domain over territories around you, and so that had been stripped away in 3rd edition, so that it didn't exist by 4th edition. And now here in 5e24, Wizards is trying to reintroduce the concept for people to have a domain in the 5e game, which they came up with Bastions, which is basically a hideout or a downtime, like a downtime pad to like a flat to hang out in between gigs. And there isn't much adventure associated with Bastions. There could be in the DMG, there could be the occasional event that might occur that the DM could choose to build into an adventure hook if you so chose, but it doesn't really have any risks or consequences to actions taken through the Bastion. It's basically just a framework for your characters to go someplace between adventures, and during that downtime to accumulate magic items or stuff. So there's no real skill checks involved with any. You just accumulate material, and it's a way for players to get their characters whatever equipment it is that they want in time, with proper building the bastions and DM's permission and stuff. But it removes any kind of gamification or challenges rewarded with getting things that you want if your DM allows or is generous with what can be acquired through the Bastion. It basically nullifies the need to go on quests to get stuff. So I wanted to reintroduce that danger element, that risk-reward element, but use the 5e24 game language to be able to express crafting, item creation, researching information and spells, as well as like making like structures, establishing settlements, governing over a population of people, establishing dominion, a chain of fortresses, a pirate fleet, a Spelljammer empire. These are all levels of domain that existed in earlier editions of the game, where when your character accumulated enough personal power and had been distributing wealth throughout communities, and as they dumped treasure to gain experience points in the old BX system, then they basically established themselves as a source of power and a river of wealth. So people would just naturally start gravitating towards you. Lead us. You obviously know what you're doing. You're powerful as hell. Guide us to a better life. That's kind of the narrative that goes on with NPCs in these BX first edition sort of games. Depending on what class you were and what level you were at, people would start arriving, and the opportunity for you to have land ownership became just part of the game. Back in the olden days, it would take a number of weeks or months for you to gain a level, because you had to train to gain your level, equal to whatever duration of time it is that you're using, like say a week per level that you're trying to reach. So if I'm 12th level and I want to get to 13th level, that's 13 weeks that I would spend in downtime not adventuring while I gain those levels. And in the old Gygaxian living world, while that character is down doing things for 13 weeks, you've got 13 weeks of game to play. What do you want to do in the meantime? So players would have multiple characters that they would pick up and operate with and utilize, and then when they would gain a level, they would put them aside for downtime activity to train, and then they pick up another character. So there was always this need for characters to have downtime as they accumulated power. And if you had a bastion or a settlement or a castle, keep, wizard's tower, etc., where your character would spend that downtime training, then they would be safe, basically, and you could like put them on pause while you go off do adventuring with other characters. So the DMG24 is attempting to bring that Dominion style back in, like that downtime activity idea, and without putting any hard rules about how, like, does your character need to spend time between adventures to gain a level or not. Are you using a gritty realism system where you only take one long rest per week, or are you using the standard system of a long rest every 24 hours, like 8 hours of sleep? So there's a lot of different ways you can structure a campaign that can lean into just adding more time in your game space. So having a bastion, or in this case, having a facilities or a settlement that your character has ties to or control of, helps ground those characters into the campaign and creates that downtime activity, like that space for them to be using that downtime activity and issuing orders to their bastion. Hey, Steve. So that's the ideas that we're exploring. We've spent 14 episodes, the past 14 episodes of this development. We've been rebuilding the bastion, the core of what a bastion is. The facilities that can be installed within bastions, the orders, downtime activities, and benefits that the different facilities provide, how the orders work and the structure that goes along with those. And then we've just gotten through settlements of how a settlement is like a facility, but instead of being inside of a bastion, the bastion is inside of the facility. So the facility becomes the settlement, and the features of a settlement is that once you establish a settlement, you can recruit more NPCs to come in as population that residents that occupy the settlement become the population of the place, and can grow their own. They can develop their own bastions inside of your settlement. And the real benefit of a settlement is once you establish a lifestyle for the settlement, that's the quality of materials that can be available in that place and the level of security that's provided to it. So a really high rank settlement is going to be huge. It's going to have a lot of resources in it. You can maintain a really high level of lifestyle within it, and has abundant space for others to come in and build their own structures and set up their own bastions within that settlement to work together to basically create this commerce center and economic center, which is what a lot of settlements are for. We can also have bastions that aren't inside of a settlement, that are like off in the distance in their own craggy hill or whatever. But if you're not inside of a settlement, you don't have a readily available resource for you to be able to restock provisions and trade goods and services. So you have to establish a trade route. So instead of making a maintain check, you're basically making a trade check instead. And the trade check, basically, like when you're on foot here, hold on. I'm starting to spill into stuff, so let's carry on. If you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. I do this Mondays and Thursday nights, and then I also do game design on Tuesday and Friday lunches, and then I do artwork for my books Monday through Fridays in the morning. So I stream 9 times per week, always working on different RPG stuff, typically 5e content, but who knows what the future is going to bring. So here's a bunch of books that I've already created on the DMsGuild. They all have free previews. Be welcome to check them out. This Bastion campaign system that we're developing, The playtest content for that is on this hyperlink here. It's going to be a read-only document for you. It's a playtest document. We're still figuring out all the mechanics of, like we're ironing out armies, sieges, and sabotage right now. So, but we're still figuring out what's the right sequence, like the logical order of presenting the information. How can we simplify it? Where do we need to add examples of game mechanics or the narrative that goes on with running a campaign? So that's all part of developing a supplement, and we're going through that process. So if you're along for the ride and the topic is interesting to you, I'd be welcome to stick around, and we can shoot the shit. So let's see, Bastion document here. Let's see, I'm going to extract this as a separate folder so I can leave this Bastion campaign stuff up here inside as a self-reference, so I can go to different parts of the document without having to lose my place. But this will be the main document that we're working out of today. So, and again, this is going to be read-only for you guys. But once it's published, it'll be on the DMsGuild, and you'll be able to read the whole thing and decide if you want to throw some money my way to encourage similar behavior in the future. So, let's see. Settlements. Hey, there we go. Facility benefits. Multiple bastions can be built and maintained independently or collectively within a settlement, as detailed in the settlement section below. Bastions attract creatures and NPCs to become residents of the settlement, as detailed in the settlement section below. And orders. Harvest is you can recruit you can issue the harvest order to acquire animals, minerals, and plant materials for crafting and empowering items of a rarity or value equal to the rank of the facility. So having a settlement basically establishes materials for you to build things with, as well as become a hub where other bastions owned by NPCs, like if you're in Waterdeep, you could start your campaign with a pub or an inn, and maybe it's like maybe it's a first or second rank facility, a bastion, with like a pub and maybe like a barracks, some common rooms, maybe a library, a couple different little things in it, but it's occupying space inside of the Waterdeep settlement. The Waterdeep settlement is under command of the Council of the Waterdeep Council. I forget their names, but there's a council of Waterdeep merchant decision makers, all like a bunch of archmages and shit, but they make the decision. They do the governing for the city of Waterdeep. So the Bastion, that team of archwizards and whatever, that's basically an adventuring party, and their Bastion is like Castle Waterdeep or whatever, and inside of that castle, that's the Bastion, which is basically a massive castle complex. And they've built out this facility of a settlement that is so huge now at 5th rank that it has a population of over 1 million people in it. And it has completely separate wardens. There's like I think 8 different wardens that are like different neighborhoods. And each one of those neighborhoods unto themselves is large enough to be a normal sized city, but they're all in this metropolis of what Waterdeep is. So when you're looking at how are you structuring Waterdeep, you've got the Council of Waterdeep that's actually governing the settlement in a whole. So that Bastion has like barracks, and it has a government facility that allows it to basically oversee the operations of the settlement as a whole. And so the settlement is massive. It basically has a sprawl out to 100 miles away from it in distant farming communities and stuff. So it has access to mines in the mountains to the north. To the west, to the east is just grasslands and crop areas. There's a forest to the north, and I want to say to the south, as well as aquatic shipping routes along the Sword Coast to the west. So it has access to animals, animal material, plant material, and mineral materials from the mountains, the pastures, and the fields and orchards that are within 100 miles of Waterdeep, all feeding resources into the settlement for all the residents. Waterdeep maintains a 5th ranked lifestyle, which is it's capable of sustaining an aristocratic lifestyle for whomever can afford it. And so if you were to establish a bastion inside of Waterdeep, like a pub or an inn, then you would be able to basically start it off as a little fledgling, like a bodega or something. And as you continue to amass more bastion points or expend more gold to improve the facilities inside of the bastion, it continues to grow in rank. It can accommodate larger and larger facilities. And then, so you would be an example of a separate bastion that's set up inside of a settlement that's under the command of NPCs, the Waterdeep Council. So that's the cascade there. And if your bastion, like if your bodega became big enough, you could invest bastion points into creating other bodegas, like Bully's bodegas. And so you've got the original Bully's bodega in the market district, but you could have like a Bully bodega down in the docks. You could have a Bully bodega in the the lower commons. Now you could have a bunch of different bodegas set up all throughout Waterdeep, and in whole, like maybe you've got like a second ranked bastion as the first bodega, and you've got like maybe 6 or 7 other smaller franchise locations that all act as separate bastions under the umbrella of Bully's bodega. So that you can structure things that way. And then like maybe it's like, well, we're a coffee shop. So maybe you then expend some bastion points and establish a trade route with people that harvest coffee beans from like Am or wherever the hell they would come from along the Sea of Fallen Stars, somewhere around there maybe. But you could then establish a trade route to have this material brought in if you want to continue to expand your coffee empire to the point where maybe you purchase land 700 miles away along the coast of the Sea of the Fallen Star, where the coffee is being made. You want to gain a bit of control over the production of coffee beans. So you go and you expend points and you establish a bastion there and create your own settlement that could then run coffee plantations to be able to accumulate beans that you would then send up to Bully's bodega, for example. So you can see how you can see the narrative of you creating a geopolitical structure that your characters have command over through the bastions that they've established, and whether or not those bastions blossom into settlements or not depends on whether that bastion is actually inside a settlement or not. So having said all that, going down through the process, these are all the facilities that you can have. So facility properties, blah, 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 downtime activity, orders that you can issue. And then we get down into and now a settlement is basically a facility within the bastion, except it's bigger than the bastion, but it's a facility of a bastion. So when you have a settlement, as you add more facilities to your bastion, they can either be inside of the central structure of the primary bastion that was originally created, or you can spread out the properties of these facilities as separate structures inside the settlement. So looking at building out settlements, governing bastions and settlements. So a bastion with the government facility, as detailed above, can issue orders to other bastions and settlements up to a rank equal to the rank of, like, if you want to command Waterdeep, Waterdeep is a 5th rank facility with 1 million people, with a population of over 1 million people. So you would have to have a 5th rank government that's large enough and has enough bureaucratic control to be able to manage that large of a population. So any number, so a bastion with a government facility, as detailed above, can issue orders to other bastions and settlements up to a rank equal to the rank of the facility. So if you have a 5th rank bastion, you can have the facilities that you have installed in there can also be increased to 5th rank by expending bastion points to level them up, as it were. And once you get to a 5th rank settlement facility, it requires a 5th rank governing facility. Otherwise, the population outgrows the bureaucracy and you lose control, and it creates a rival government, which was like a coup can occur, or a counterculture starts to rise up inside of your settlement, which we'll look at further down below. So any number of bastion points can be spent to govern other bastions and settlements this way. So you can issue orders to your bastion with a governing facility to oversee the operations of other bastions or other settlements. And then you can issue one. Basically, each bastion and settlement has their own set of orders that can be issued to them, and you can spend bastion points to issue additional orders. So a third rank bastion can have 4 orders. You could spend an extra 3 points and clock in a total of 7 orders inside of that bastion. So if you have a settlement, some of the facilities and structures in that settlement might be facilities of the governing bastion, or they could be independently owned bastions by other NPCs that are just part of the general population. They started their own business. So that's an aspect of it where if you have a bastion and it has a settlement, and the settlement has multiple bastions, independent bastions, the governing bastion could purchase or be in command of various other bastions, like Waterdeep, like the town guard could be its own bastion with a bunch of barracks and armories and smithies and stables and observatories to have their own facilities that are all centered around security for Waterdeep as a whole. There could also be a merchants guild, which would be a bunch of guild halls, workshops, smithies, potential gardens, and just other facilities that can produce things like food or supplies, or like through a guild hall, like a infrastructure for like sewage and making other buildings and stuff. So that could be a completely separate bastion that is specialized in workshops and developing and creating structures. So it's just like 8 or 9 guild halls and workshops as a large sprawling structure that then sends out teams to do repair work around the town. So that would be a separate facility from the security. The town watch would be one bastion. Infrastructure and repair would be another faction, like the merchant guilds and coordinating commerce. That could be a series of storehouses and guild halls and pubs, and even like spy networks, all coordinating information and reaching out to establish additional trade routes that bring exotic materials into Waterdeep through connections with other communities and settlements beyond the borders of Waterdeep to establish these different trade routes with each other. So you can see how the Waterdeep government could oversee not only the settlement as a large population base, but also establish additional bastions inside of Waterdeep alongside your pub and like an NPC's library and an arcane study and the Wizards Academy and the Temple of Tyr. These would all be different bastions or facilities set up inside a settlement. So hopefully that makes sense. It's a really, they all use the same mechanics. It's just a matter of who's issuing the orders and who's allowed to be there. Like the Temple of Shar is not technically allowed inside Waterdeep. It's an illegal religion in Waterdeep. But there's still a significant sect of Shar worshippers inside of Waterdeep that are like devoting resources to develop this, well, pardon the pun, a shadow temple inside of Waterdeep, where they can congregate and worship the goddess Shar and conspire against Mistra and Selûne and Tyr, which are established religions that have their own temples as separate bastions with their own facilities of sacristies and reliquaries, and in Tyr's case, barracks, to basically have their own structures that are sanctioned to be there, or that are allowed to be there by the Lords of Waterdeep. So they establish their own bastion with their own pool of resources and their own orders and their own agendas, but they're making use of the resources and the human labor that's available inside of Waterdeep to build things and to carry out goals. Meanwhile, Shar, with its Shadow Temple, also has a similar number of bastion points accumulated, but they're just not advertising their location. They're hiding in the shadows. Just like Xanathar's Thieves Guild is not legal, but he's got a ton, like a Beholder's CR12 creature, I think, 10 or 12. But that, regardless, that's a fourth rank. That's a fourth rank creature. So Xanathar unto itself would be able to have like a fourth rank bastion in the form of a thieves guild that exists inside of Waterdeep, even though it's illegal, because it has enough of a thieving criminal, enough of a criminal population that it can form its own little culture inside of Waterdeep. So using these tools, a DM can create factions and rivalries inside of a settlement, or create conflicts and relationships between different communities or different nations or neighboring keeps, or like the elves are near the orcs. How's that shaking out where they both can have, you can represent the orc tribe and the elven glades as separate settlements underneath this bastion structure. So if they're both like third rank, then that's going to be basically like a town worth of people, like maybe up to 10,000 people in it. So that could be 10,000 orcs and 10,000 elves, and as long as they're balanced, they're basically going to have a standoff and neutralize each other in conflicts. But if the orcs all of a sudden flare up to being a fourth rank population with like 80,000 orcs, while the elves are still like only 9,000 elves, they're going to get swamped and crushed by just a horde of orcs that suddenly spring forward and attack. So the elves would want to subtly, or not so subtly, sabotage any efforts that the orcs would take to increase their rank, so that they could start to overwhelm a lower rank elven settlement. So the elves and the orcs could be continuously attacking each other in skirmishes and sabotage efforts to prevent them from utilizing their resources, like continually attacking the forest. The elves have to repair the forest with their druids and their like sylvan allies and stuff, while the elves go in and they try to kill a bunch of orcs. So the orcs are always recruiting on new clans to join their horde. So in that sense, they're always blowing resources on each other, but never making any headway. If someone were to come in, like a character team were to come in and throw that balance off, suddenly the elves might have enough momentum to overcome the orcs, crush the orcs, drive them apart. They now no longer have a collective community. They're now shattered into a bunch of smaller second or first rank clans that are all skirmishing against the elves. Not enough strength to recombine themselves into one solid third rank community. But now you've got all these small bandit communities that are attacking city settlements, picking at the edge of the elves, pissing off the giants to the north, and getting into like the coastal communities. So by disrupting the orcs, you've now forced them to scatter, and these smaller units of orc communities are trying to steal resources from the other established communities or the wilderness around them to reestablish new settlements so that they can try to regrow. So using this system of damaging and displacing each other with bastion points, you can create any kind of geopolitical narrative that you want inside of your game, and you can keep it as tight, or you can go as broad with it as you want. So that's the intent of the system. So we're hammering out the details of how this system operates, and we're trying to make it as friction-free and simple as possible, so that there's enough crunch in the mechanics to be a satisfying game experience, while being nimble enough in narrative to be able to create any kind of story from it that you want at any scale or scope. So that's the idea. So that's what we're working through. So governing other bastions. A bastion that has a government facility can command other bastions up to the rank of the governing facility. I don't necessarily like the language that we're using here with like governing and stuff. We might change that. So that's why we hire an editor to get good advice like that. The governing bastion expends a number of points equal to the rank of the bastion. So you have to spend additional bastion points to establish control over another bastion, while if you have a settlement that your bastion resides inside of, you don't have to spend any additional points. The settlement is your own facility. So, but commanding another bastion with its own set of facilities and its own set of orders that can be issued, you have to expend points to gain that, because there's a lot of leverage and there is a lot of resources you can gain from controlling multiple bastions. So each bastion you control is going to cost you a number of points equal to the rank of that bastion, 1 to 5. Now obviously and you can't command a bastion that's a higher rank than your own. But there's nothing that's set, there's no rules about the level, CR, or rank of the NPCs that make the decisions for that bastion. So in that sense, you could have a child emperor that commands a 5th rank society of 3 million Huns, for instance. So you could have a 12-year-old emperor who's a CR 1/8 creature, but it has command of these vast resources. And because the bastion, the system, the machinations and bureaucracy and belief of the system keeps it together regardless of the level of competence of the leader. The leader might issue bad orders, but the bastion and the settlements under control of that bastion have enough resources and abilities to maintain themselves through these bad decisions, because the leaders can change, but this community, as long as the settlement doesn't get burned to the ground, it remains and can rebuild from any kind of disasters that it faces, as long as it at least has 1 bastion point allocated to it. When you lose 100% of your bastion points, basically the settlement or the bastion is destroyed, and you have to rebuild it from scratch. So as long as you've got at least 1 point left, you can go through any kind of tragedies, any kind of earthquakes or volcanic eruptions or invasions from enemy communities. You can still survive and rebuild. It just takes time. So let's see. Governing other bastions. A bastion that has the government facility can command another bastion up to the rank of the governing facility. The governing bastion expends a number of bastion points equal to the rank of the bastion being governed to sustain command of it. A bastion can govern multiple bastions, expending bastion points for each one. So as long as you've got points available, you can spend them to control additional bastions. A bastion governed by another has its own pool of bastion points and can carry out orders as a normal bastion. Both the governing bastion and the bastion being governed can expend points to improve governed bastions and facilities, as well as expend points for the governed bastion to sustain or carry out additional orders, which we've spent time talking about earlier. Like if you issue an order to build a set of plate mail, it's going to take you a month to build the plate mail, but a bastion turn is only 1 week. Then it's going to take 4 bastion turns to complete that order. So while that order is ongoing, each week you would have to make a new bastion check to see if a new complication arose. But if you spent points on it, like creating armor is a 3rd rank task, so it would cost 3 points for you to basically tap 3 points of mana and maintain that task until it's completed. And when it is completed, you take those 3 bastion points and return it to your resource pool, and that order then gets freed up for you to issue a new order, and if necessary, invest more bastion points to sustain it. Like building a damselfly ship, a 32,000 gold vessel. A 3rd rank facility can build one in 2 months, which is 8 weeks. So I would have to lock down a crafting order, and since it's a 3rd rank task, I would tie up a 4th rank task. I would tie up 4 points and keep those 4 points reserved to maintain that order for an 8-week period of time. Meanwhile, while that ship is being built, we go on other adventures, and the way that the Bastion campaign is structured is that you have 1 adventure every week. So while you're waiting for that damselfly ship and the spelljamming helm to be completed and you're stuck on this rock, you've got 8 adventures that your team can go through just to pass the time. You got to do something. Now you're getting involved in local politics, and by the time that damselfly ship is done, maybe you've got serious reasons why you would want to stay tied to the community that you've been operating inside of, doing, bulletin board missions and helping the local governments resolve different threats and all that adventuring shit that you normally do. But as 1 adventure per bastion turn and 8 turns needed for your damselfly ship to be built to leave this planet, in the meantime, you're getting involved in local politics. 4 adventures, 8 adventures, you're probably going to gain 2 levels. So like maybe you started off at 5th level, by the time your ship is done, you're 7th level. And now whatever adventure you go off in orbit or whatever, blah, 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 you're now operating as 7th level characters, and you've had all these different adventures that are leading you into deeper and deeper into the geopolitics of the community that you've been operating inside of. So bastions governed by other bastions can themselves govern other bastions, and a bastion can expend all of its bastion points to improve the government facility and expend the rest of on governing more bastions. So you could have a bastion that like has 40 points and it only spent 5 points on the government facilities to handle the level of bureaucracy needed for the other 35 bastion points. And again, it's each bastion requires points, and on a rank of 1 to 5, you would spend 1 point per rank. So I could have, with 35 points, I could have 7 5th rank bastions operating independently underneath my umbrella, or 35 separate 1st rank bastions distributed across the city, for instance. Like each bastion, it has like 1 facility. And so and as each facility grows, they increase their own rank, and the central bastion doesn't have to worry about being limited on resources because it's farmed out most of its resources to develop other bastions that can develop independently, like a library bastion, an archive bastion, an arcane study bastion, a scriptorum bastion. That the only thing that it does is focus on the like making scrolls or researching spells or researching forgotten knowledge. Like you can break up facilities into separate bastions that way. And each bastion has its own set of orders. So you could like have a bastion like with 6 facilities worth of libraries. So you could issue 6 orders to research 6 separate topics at the same time inside that one bastion week, because you've built a research facility that all it is all of its points are loaded up on research activity. For instance, a guard tower could be a barracks as well as an armory, a smithy, and a stable, and an observatory. So it has all the resources that it needs to be able to spy enemies and then dispatch teams of soldiers to go deal with what those enemies are as they breach your border or whatever. So like that could be its own bastion with enough facilities inside of it to be able to be its own functioning structure on its own, even though it's under the command of, say, the city of Waterdeep. It could have like 7 or 8 different bastions in each cardinal, in all the cardinal directions, basically maintaining a security net around the perimeter of the Waterdeep settlement that would stretch out 100 some odd miles away from it into the fields and stuff. Well, somebody says that there's a bullet that's digging up all their crops and they've lost a couple horses so far to the thing eating them. That's like a 5th level adventure. So if your characters are involved with the Guards Watch of Waterdeep, they could have command over one of these rural lookout posts, and they're the ones that are going to deal with the bullet. They're the ones that are going to deal with the Rimmeraz. They're the ones that are going to deal with the goblin tribe that's stealing pumpkins. Like that's going to be like your problem, and you're developing that region of farmland and orchards and waterways under the watch of your guard post, for instance. Like it could become a little keep, and you've got like a bastion. You've got like a barracks with like 30 soldiers or whatever. So that could become a small little geopolitical center where your characters are accumulating power, and as they gain rank and their bastion continues to develop, they get the attention from downtown. They're like, you guys are doing a lot of great work. We'd like to promote you and bring you closer to Waterdeep, or we want to promote you and send you further away to deal with bigger problems on a further out border. So like there's a lot of different ways that you can create a geopolitical landscape that your characters can directly impact through their adventures, depending on how you structure your bastions, which we're hoping to be able to demonstrate and help you produce through this book. So as we go through the mechanics and iron out how those work, we can then use those mechanics to start demonstrating how you can structure campaigns and then create adventures from those campaigns. Governing settlements. A bastion with a government facility can install the settlement's facilities, creating a settlement around the governing bastion's location. Settlements are locations populated by residents that are not hirelings of the governing bastion. Structures can be constructed within the space occupied by the settlements as facilities of the governing bastion or as independent bastions commanded by residents that are not hirelings when the government bastion allows you to. So the rank of a settlement determines its maximum population and the bastion die rolled when issuing an order as indicated on the table below. So first rank facility, a settlement could be a hamlet with a maximum population of 100 people. It has an effective space, like the community has an effective space of a mile. Growth rate is every month. When you're making ability checks to see how the hamlet like harvests corn or whatever, then it's you would roll a d4 plus the rank, which is 1, plus a d20 to see what the results of the ability check is. And when you're maintaining a lifestyle for the settlement, you have to check every bastion turn, which is every week. Second rank is a village with 1,000 people. Its downtown core is basically up to 10 miles. It can grow basically every season. It can have additional people show up and increase in size. It rolls a d6, and it can maintain a lifestyle for a full month, which is 4 bastion turns. Town, city, metropolis, up to 10,000 people, up to 100,000 people in a metropolis. Can have any number of people beyond 100,000. Like Waterdeep, for instance, has a stable population of 1 million with potentially up to 1 million additional visitors at any given time. A city can you got a 10-mile radius, a town 50-mile radius, and a city a 100-mile radius, and then a metropolis is beyond 100 miles. I think Waterdeep's actual effective reach is 250 miles, if I recall. Realms Wiki correctly. Growth rate, it's a season for a village and a town. It takes a year of being established for it to when you issue a recruit order to expand the population, it takes a full year for the city and metropolis to notice any change in population size. Bastion die D10, D12, and you can sustain a lifestyle for an entire year in a city. And in a metropolis, you can sustain a lifestyle forever, which basically means somebody has to specifically sabotage your lifestyle and your resources to take away the standard of living that you've established in that metropolis. Basically, being under siege would do that. Rank, settlement, max population, area's radius, growth rate, bastion die, lifestyle. There you go. Issuing orders to a settlement. A governing bastion can issue a number of unique orders to a settlement as detailed below. Maintaining a lifestyle for the settlement. Similar to maintaining a lifestyle in a bastion as detailed above, a settlement rolls a bastion test without expending an order to maintain a lifestyle for the residents. This lifestyle only represents the relative level of safety in the settlement and maximum quality and rarity of materials and items that can be acquired within the settlement itself. But it doesn't establish the lifestyle of the residents in the settlement unless those residents are hirelings of the governing bastion. So if I set up a bodega in Waterdeep, it's on me to survive. If that bodega was a government-controlled food outlet and I worked there, then they would establish a lifestyle for me to be able to operate that facility as part of the government. So capitalism versus socialism or communism, perhaps. A settlement, so you could sculpt the politics of a settlement by deciding, is everything under the control of the governing bastion, or do they allow people that they don't have directly under their control to establish locations and potentially bring their own ideas and resources? So that becomes a debate of what kind of political system is best. So you could have a theocracy in one, you could have a capitalist society in another, you could have a communist or a socialist sort of society. Whatever flavor you like is going to basically determine how many structures and bastions and facilities inside of the settlement are directly controlled by the governing bastion, or are basically inviting independent residents to come in and establish their own bastions, their own facilities, their their own centers of power inside and benefiting from the settlement that the government set up for you to be able to do that. So a way to handle that would be like taxation, for instance. If everything is controlled by the government itself, it's sustaining its own lifestyle. But if it's inviting foreign residents or entities to establish bastions to make use of their resources, they could impose a tax, which would be like a bastion point per rank of your bastion. Bastions are 1st to 5th rank. So if you had a 1st rank bastion, you'd have to give the governing bastion a single point of a single bastion point as a tax. So like you basically, if you have 3 points in your 1st rank bastion, and maybe you have like a pub, you've got a spare order left over for in case you do something, like if something goes wrong with your pub, you can try to re-roll it to fix the problem or to resolve the complication. And that 3rd point you keep reserved because that's your tax. If you ever run out of those 3 bastion points, you can't pay your taxes. The government may decide to shut down your operation and give that space to somebody else that's willing to pay for it. That might be a more stable source. If that bodega was controlled by the government, those 3 points, if those points somehow got taken away, like if somebody caught the bodega on fire or something like that, since it would be owned by the government would then potentially provide new bastion points to repair and replace what was lost inside that bastion. Hey, Bastion Consynced. Thanks a lot. So each bastion inside of the settlement can be issued its own orders and has its own bastion point resources that basically operates the exact same as any other bastion would, except they're all sharing the same space. So the lifestyle established for the settlement is re-rolled at the end of the duration listed for the size of the settlement. If preferred, an order can be issued each bastion turn, which is typically a week, to attempt to improve the lifestyle of the settlement, which is something that you can do in your own individual bastion using the maintain order. And if you're using bastion points to sustain a lifestyle, if you end up with a worse result than what you're currently maintaining, because you spent points to maintain a lifestyle, you get to retain that lifestyle. But if you fail the die roll, fail by not improving it, that creates a complication, which becomes a potential adventure hook. Harvesting materials. The harvest order detailed above generally requires a settlement to harvest animal, mineral, and plant materials. The DM determines what type and rarity of materials that can be harvested in a settlement. This is generally ambiguous, allowing the DM to decide if the proper materials for a specific item creation is available in any suitable settlement or not. For example, a 3rd rank settlement capable of harvesting minerals from a nearby mine can provide rare quality materials. You get common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary materials for making items. So a 3rd rank settlement is capable of harvesting rare quality materials like that you could use to make a magic item, for instance. If the DM determines such materials can be found in that mine. The rank of the settlement determines how many types of materials can be harvested, as listed below. So for you to be able to harvest all 3 types of materials, animal, mineral, and plant, you have to have a 5th rank settlement. Like Waterdeep is large enough to have massive plantations, pastures for animals, as well as has access to a mountain that they mine for iron. While a smaller, so for example, a 1st or 2nd rank settlement is limited to only 1 type of material. If the material is plant, it can represent a variety of harvestable fruits, grains, or vegetables, but there simply isn't enough working residents to effectively harvest other types of material beyond what is needed to maintain their own lifestyle. Contrarily, a 5th rank settlement is vast enough with a large population to harvest a wide variety of all 3 types of materials. The DM decides what type of materials can be harvested by a settlement and how much variety there is. Though multiple smaller settlements adjacent to each other can harvest different types of materials if the DM decides they're present. So you can set up basically a collective of small settlements that are each specializing in their own type of material. Like this one is doing animal husbandry, this one's doing plantations, this one is mining rocks. And between the 3 of them, they can cover a lot of bases. But if if the animal husbandry settlement is attacked and it gets reduced down to nothing, the other 2 settlements would have to decide how are we going to handle this do they have troops that they can deploy to help rescue their neighbor, for instance? Otherwise, they don't have access to animal materials, so they'd have to establish a new trade route someplace else to get that material from. A settlement that accumulates sufficient Bastion points doesn't automatically increase the rank of the settlement. Sufficient residents must also populate the settlement to increase its rank. You can issue the recruit order to attract additional residents to increase the population, roll a Bastion test, and compare the result to the DC of the current rank of the settlement. If the roll fails, the population doesn't increase and a complication occurs. If the roll succeeds, the population increases by the listed amount for the rank of settlement. So the time required to carry out this order is also determined by the current rank. So a third rank facility or a third rank settlement that wants to increase its population, it would have to do a DC 20, and if it succeeds, it'll pull in an extra 1,000 population. And then once it gets to 10,000, it'll have enough of a population to become fourth rank. So if it has enough Bastion points and enough population, a third rank settlement can evolve into can grow into a fourth rank settlement. And the growth rate, a third rank settlement reaching for fourth rank, it's each season of growth. So it'd take 10 seasons for that town to evolve into a city. That would be 10.5 seasons. That'd be 2.5 years. That's aggressive. Assuming that you hit the DC 20 every time, rolling a D20 plus 3 plus D8. You've got basically a 1 in 3 chance of succeeding. So that probably means, since you have to make 10 die rolls, it's probably going to end up having to be 15 die rolls, which is almost 4 years. So statistically speaking, it would take potentially 4 years for a town to grow into a city. If the population exceeds the maximum for the rank of the settlement, so you could increase the population without increasing your Bastion points, so now you have too much population for the size of your settlement. If the population exceeds the maximum for the rank of the settlement, the overpopulation forms a rival Bastion to contest the current governing Bastion, and a complication occurs each Bastion turn until the population and rank of the settlement are equalized. So we talk about rival Bastions down here. So some results of a Bastion event roll as detailed below. So we have a Bastion event each turn, and sometimes that results in new residents arriving in a settlement, whether you want them or not. They're potentially adding, they could potentially be there to add additional Bastions to the settlement, if they're allowed, or they could potentially create a rival Bastion that challenges the current governing Bastion if they aren't allowed to develop a settlement, which the DM can decide depending on what's going on in the campaign. So rival Bastions, there can be only one Bastion that governs a settlement, and if there are rival Bastions with government facilities, so if you have more than one Bastion that has governing facilities, that means that they could both potentially govern a settlement. If one of them wants to attack the current governing Bastion and basically perform a coup, they could take control of that settlement if they're sufficient rank to do so. So like if Xanathar has a 4th rank Thieves Guild, by the time your characters are 13th level, you could potentially have developed your own Thieves Guild to equal and rival that of Xanathar. And then if you can eliminate Xanathar, you could then take control of his Thieves Guild and fold it into your Bastion points to take control of that operation. And now you are the leader of Xanathar's guild in Waterdeep. Creating structures and settlements. Structures can be constructed in settlements. The amount of the gold piece value per order is based on the size of the settlement. So a hamlet, which is a 1st rank, each week they can invest 100 gold pieces. You can typically order 2 issues. You can issue 2 orders to a hamlet, and each order is worth 100 gold pieces in value. And the structures, like a guild hall, is worth 5,000 gold. So at the rate of 200 gold per 100 gold per order, 2 orders per week, 5,000. That's 5,000 divided by 2. What is that? 25. That'd be 25 weeks that it would take for you to finish construction of a guild hall. Meanwhile, a city that could create could easily create a 5,000 gold piece guild hall but it could, like, say, operate as a town. It could issue 2 orders and complete the guild hall within a month. Or if I wanted to speed up progress on that, I could issue 4 orders to create that guild hall, which would be 16,000 gold worth of value, which is 3 times faster, which means that I'd be able to make the town hall and that guild hall in 10 days instead of a month, for example. And depending on the value of the structure is going to depend on the construction DC that I have to hit. So like that city would roll a D20 plus 4 plus D10 because it's 4th rank, D10. And so if I wanted to make a guild hall, which is 5,000 gold value, that would technically be a DC 25 that I need to hit. So D20 plus 4 plus D10. If I don't get a 25, if I get a 25, smooth sailing, I can then expend 4 points to lock in the cost. So at the end of the 10 days, it'll automatically get built. If I don't hit the DC 25, something goes wrong that's preventing construction from being completed, which could become an adventure. At the end of the adventure, if you survive the adventure, then you do whatever it is that an adventure does. But a collateral benefit of that adventure is the complication resolves. Now you can continue to build that guild hall. Here's structures from the DMG. If you're repairing ruins to become a structure, then it's only half the value, so it's half the time. And then there's also temporary structures. I should actually separate this. Temporary structures. Cost. Temporary structures are useful when you have armies and caravans that are mobile. So if you have temporary structures, they obviously cost a lot less than permanent structures do. So the cost is considerably less. So it's pretty quick to be able to build these sort of things. And then you can basically, like if you have a 4th rank army, you can put a 4th rank yurt into that army that when you're either mobilized as an army or you're settled as an army. When you're mobilized, you can move to different locations on the world map and engage in combat. If you've settled, you can defend your outpost position, and since you settled, all the facilities that you have in temporary structures are unfurled. And so if an army settles in a spot for like 3 weeks, if you have a smithy in a temporary structure, then basically you unfurl that smithy and you can do armor repair and build new weapons and restock your army while it's settled in this location before it mobilizes and closes distance with an enemy, for instance. Bastions without settlements. A bastion that does not occupy space within a settlement must establish a trade route to maintain a lifestyle. Until the trade route is established, the lifestyle has to either be maintained by actually paying gold out of pocket, or you have to burn bastion points, like sacrificing them permanently, or you can raid and plunder nearby settlements to take resources from them to pay for your own lifestyle. Take away from their lifestyle to pay for your own. But once you establish a trade route, it basically becomes, you can basically maintain a lifestyle through that trade route. Let's see. Permanently sacrificing bastion points. Okay, lifestyle. The gold value is like if you want to maintain a poor lifestyle, it only costs 1 point to do so. It's basically 100 gold pieces that you're spending on your facilities. Modest lifestyle, and this is per week, so 400 gold per week or 2 bastion points. Comfortable lifestyle, basically 4,000 gold or 3 points that you would spend every week, like permanently sacrifice each week. Wealthy would be a 40,000 gold piece cost, and then aristocratic would be 200,000 or 5 points. While paying gold to maintain a lifestyle, the Bastion doesn't make a maintain check, nor can it expend Bastion points to sustain the lifestyle. The cost per turn reflects both the value of materials and items immediately available for use by the Bastion, but also the value of provisions replaced and the security of the supply chain itself, such as a caravan guards, sailing ships, or land transporting the goods and materials. Creating a bastion without a settlement A bastion can be created outside the space occupied by a settlement by creating a structure at a selected location. While under construction, an army must be sustained at the location of the structure and establish a trade route of sufficient quality. So basically, an army goes to a location, settles, and then establishes a trade route from a settlement to where that army is settled. And once that trade route is established, materials come in that can create a structure at that location. If the trade route quality drops below the minimum required to maintain to be able to construct, complications occur as normal, and the craft order cannot be issued until the quality materials in the trade route are reestablished. So, like if you want to make a 500,000 gold castle at a location, that's a 5th rank structure. It requires a 5th rank trade route to have sufficient stone, grout, metal, animals, supplies, food all brought in to be able to sustain a population of workers creating a castle in the middle of nowhere. So you establish the trade route. If the trade route is sufficient, supplying the amount of materials that you need on a rank of 1 to 5, matching the rank of the thing that you're trying to build. Once you establish that, it's set until something fucks with it. And of course, the DM can fuck with it. It's like something's going wrong with the trade route. You know, giant wolves are attacking our munition supply. So every time we dig up ore to turn into ammo to sell back to the Emperor, these giant wolves come through and attack all our oxen and kill our men. So we're being attacked by giant wolves. We need someone to come in to kill off those wolves so that we can keep the iron supply going to the Emperor to create firearms with. If you wanted to play Princess Mononoke, for instance. There you go. Creating settlements. Settlements don't require any trade routes, plundering, or spending gold to maintain a lifestyle. A new settlement can be founded when a bastion without a settlement takes the following steps. Expend 1 bastion point to issue the craft order to install a rank 1 governing facility. Expend 1 bastion point and issue the craft order to install a settlement facility to create the space around the bastion. And then issue the recruit order to acquire 10 or more residents to come and populate the settlement. At that point, once the governing facility is installed in a structure located within the space that's occupied by the new settlement, when the settlement and government facilities are completed, the bastion no longer needs a supply chain and can issue the maintain order each bastion turn without expending an order to do so, and any other order that can be issued to a rank 1 bastion occupying a settlement. So you could start a bastion in, say, Waterdeep, which is a well-established 5th rank settlement, but if you then want to venture out and create your own community, you would then send out troops or excavators or prospectors or surveyors to find a spot, and once you do, depending on its distance, you establish a trade route there. And once that trade route is established, you can then issue the crafting order to begin construction. And once that construction is completed, you now have a structure there. You can then build a government facility inside that structure. And you could then build the settlement out from that governing structure. And now you can recruit people to show up and start living at that facility and start a new community with you. And now you've actually established enough infrastructure inside that settlement that you don't have to rely on a supply route anymore to provide those materials. You can now provide those materials yourself. So that's basically how that works. That's the fever pitch dream. So hopefully that's interesting. So commanding an army. We were talking about sending an army out to a location. Armies are mobile settlements under the command of a bastion. Under the command of a bastion, period. A pirate fleet, a tribe of horseback nomads, and a merchant caravan are examples of armies. You can have a merchant army that isn't actually a combat force, but would have enough guards to keep its caravan safe. A fleet of merchant ships would technically be an army with probably defenses to prevent them from being raided. But you could also have a combat fleet, a military fleet, pirate ships. These could also basically act as a settlement for the crew aboard the ships, and there would be facilities aboard each of the ships. And a neat thing about ships as opposed to wagons and marching on foot or horseback, is that you can have your Bastion facilities operating while you're mobilized or settled, your choice. Like if you want to dock in a community and trade with them, it's good that you would settle there so that you can have your Bastion points intermix with the community and be able to grow from it. But while you're at sea, you could be issuing orders to craft or empower materials, or use an observation to research stuff, or even have like a teleportation circle set up on one of your boats so that you'd be able to continue establishing trade with landside communities that also have teleportation circles, for instance. So there's a lot of really cool ways that you can use this system for like Spelljammer fleets or pirate fleets in the sea, or like if you're playing a pirate campaign in Eberron, and you're one of the 9 princes of Lazar, for instance, and you're one of the pirate houses, and like that could be your Bastion, that whole organization. Like they maybe have like 80 ships in their fleet, and those fleets are broken up into different cells of like 8 ships each. So there's like 8 fleets inside of the 5th Princes of Lazar's piracy, for instance, and you could have command over one of those fleets of 10 ships. That would be your Bastion. And then you would break up facilities amongst the different ships. Like one could just be like all barracks, and you attack with that one, while another one could be like all pubs and gardens and greenhouses growing different types of materials. You could have another one that it acts as a settlement, so it's just dragging nets behind it, harvesting fish as an animal material that you can gather up for food supplies that gets processed in the pub and the greenhouse, for instance. A lot of fun ways you can utilize the system to express in-game, like all the in-game social economic structure stuff that you don't have to grind math through. So once you understand how the die rules work, the die rules are really simple. They're a consistent pattern. So to form an army, a Bastion must expend Bastion points and issue the recruit order to acquire NPCs or hirelings, or monsters as hirelings, and then expend Bastion points to issue the craft order to install a government facility within a mobile structure like a ship, wagon, or a tent. I'm going to say yurt or a yurt. Within an army's camp that can be transported with the army when it mobilizes. Army size. The size of an army is determined by the number of Bastion points an army has and the lifestyle the recruiting Bastion maintains. So if you have at first rank, Bastion points range from 1 to 10 at first rank. At second rank, you have 11 to 20 points, and this is just standard structure of everything else up above. This is just reiterating the commonalities here. So third rank has anywhere from 21 to 30 points. Fourth rank, 31 to 40, and at fifth rank, you've got 41 or more points. If you lose Bastion points, your rank drops. The number of mercenaries you can recruit is based on the number of Bastion points that you expend. So if you expend 3 Bastion points, you only get 3 soldiers. And it only takes, and they don't do a lot of damage. They aren't a big threat. They only have 3 points to them. If you are, say, third rank, and let's go second rank. If you're second rank and you have 15 Bastion points, you know that 11 points equals 10, and then 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, you would have 50 soldiers. So if you have 15 Bastion points spent, the multiplier at the scale is 10 soldiers per point. So at 15 points, 1 to 10 gets you to 10. 11 points is also considered 10, but it's at a higher scale. Like you can have up to 10 soldiers and still be first rank. Or when you get to 11 points, you still have 10 soldiers, but now you're second rank. And when you get to 20 points, you would have 100 soldiers, but you're still second rank. And then when you get that extra Bastion point, you're now 21 Bastion points. You now have still 100 soldiers, but you're now considered third rank. So they upgraded. So they're dealing more damage now. And then once you get up to 1,000 points once you have 30 Bastion points, that's 100, 200, 300, 400, up to 30 points is 1,000. And then the scale switches to 1,000. So 31, 32, 33, 34, that's 4,000 troops. And at fifth rank, once you get to 41 points, if I had, say, 60 Bastion points that I spent, that would be 10,000 times 20. That would be, if I have 60 Bastion points invested into an army, that would be 200,000 soldiers that I have in that army. I would have to maintain an aristocratic lifestyle, not because these soldiers are living high on the hog, but that's just how much money gets dumped into maintaining that size of an army. It's expressed as an aristocratic lifestyle, but that's just the amount of resources that it takes for you to be able to maintain this thing. It's like just maintaining a couple guys. All you really need is like some cabbage and some bread and a bit of wine, and a nice tent for them to not get wet in while they're marching. But once you get up to hundreds and thousands of troops, it's like you have to lay down. Like you're killing multiple, like 20 cows a day to be able to feed these troops, right? So you have to expend ridiculous amounts of money, which is expressed through the lifestyle. Defense. And we're gonna get into the technical details here later. So the defense DC, I technically don't need to have defense listed there. Do we have it listed in defense further down here? No. So defense. Rank, mod, rank, defense. DC is 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, because it's always 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 for ranks 1 to 4, 1 to 5. Let's see, defense modifier. We'll get to this sooner than later. Yeah, I do not need this information here. Scale, total. One to 10. Ten to 100. 100 to 1K. 1K to 10K, and then 10K times 10K plus. Armies default to, okay, there we go. Armies default to first rank creatures up to CR1. Recruiting higher rank monsters and NPCs multiplies the size of the army by the rank. Multiplies, let's see, how do I want to word that? So we want to, so this is assuming first rank soldiers, right? Up to like CR1, first rank is up to CR1, second rank is up to CR5, CR9, CR13, and that fifth rank is CR14 and above. So to be able to recruit a bunch of, like, say, like if I wanted to recruit a bunch of Driders to form a Drider army, and Driders are CR8, that would be a third rank creature that I'm trying to recruit. So recruiting higher rank monsters and NPCs multiplies the rank of recruits by the size of the army. Period. A Bastion can recruit and command creatures of an equal or lower rank. While the required lifestyle is maintained. So a third rank, like Driders, would require at minimum a comfortable lifestyle because they're a third rank monster. So they would require a comfortable lifestyle, and if I wanted to recruit 50 of them, I'd have to normally spend 15 Bastion points to recruit 50 first rank soldiers, but Driders are third rank, so I would have to multiply that by 3 because of their ranks. That'd be 45 Bastion points that I'd have to expend, which means that I would have to be a 5th rank. I would have to have a 5th rank command to be able to retain control over an army of 50 Driders. Like, could you imagine a 4th rank, like a 4th level cleric of Loth trying to command 50 Driders? Those Driders are going to tear that cleric apart. But if we're looking at a command like this 17th level cleric commanded had command of like House Merilith and could have a barracks of 50 Driders because it could afford 45 points because it's 5th rank. So like the high rank or high CR monsters, you have to be a very high rank or high level character to be able to command multiple troops that are beyond just the common foot soldier. I'm going to switch that, Driders, because I like that. For example, a rank 2 Bastion can command an army of 50 first rank Drow soldiers, requiring 15 Bastion points, while an army of 50 third rank Driders requires 45 Bastion points, requiring a rank 5 Bastion to command them. Multiple Bastions can contribute Bastion points to form an army if the Bastion is of equal or greater rank than the creatures in the army, though lower rank Bastions can contribute points to a higher rank Bastion to meet the cost. Period. Recruiting and maintaining soldiers. So recruiting soldiers to attack or defend requires time. Recruiting, do I need to reword that? Army size. Okay, great. So recruiting. Let's see. Recruiting soldiers. Recruiting creatures to form an army requires time and sufficient population to recruit from. The maximum number of troops you can maintain as a separate Bastion is determined by its rank. Army rank, max rank 1 troops. This should actually be, the maximum number of troops you can maintain is determined by your rank, right? So a first rank Bastion, like a third level character, can't effectively command 10,000 plus troops. You have to have a large enough infrastructure of lieutenants and sergeants and taskmasters to be able to issue the orders from your command post to then be proliferated throughout your army of 10,000 plus soldiers to execute the plans that you wanted. So although an NPC can be any CR or level or renown or rank to be able to command a Bastion, the Bastion has to be of a sufficient rank to command that number of people because there's enough infrastructure in a higher rank Bastion to be able to cover all the bureaucracy and redundancies and output to be able to achieve to be able to effectively order the crew. So to be able to recruit people, the maximum number of recruits you can have as a first rank army is 10. The amount of time it takes to recruit is 1 week. I don't have to worry about a battle modifier right now, but the minimum population I should reword this. Let's see. Settlement size and maximum population of a hamlet is 100, 1,000, 10K, 100K, and 100K plus. Like in the example again of Waterdeep. And Waterdeep is a metropolis with over 1 million residents. So that would be 5th rank. So you can see, you can only, like a hamlet can have a population of 100. You can only realistically pull 10 troops. Like unless the DM says otherwise, a hamlet would only be able to, like, you would only be able to convince 10 able-bodied residents of that hamlet to join your army if you went to that hamlet to recruit people, right? That's like a large-size adventuring party. It's once you get to like a village, a town, a city, where you can start accumulating larger and larger forces. I'm gonna press that button to make these things bold. And then the DC. Recruiting creatures to form an army requires time. We don't have the time listed here. Recruit. Time. DC and time. And again, recruiting 10 people, it's generally only going to be a DC of 10 to do it. 15 for up to 100. 20 for 1,000, 25 for 10,000, and if you're going beyond 10,000, it's going to take 30 more. And it takes a week, no, it was a week, month, year. Week, month, year. That's not right. Season, thank you. Week, month, and season. So if you want to assemble an army, if you don't already have a standing army of 10,000 soldiers, you would have to go to at least a city-sized population. Or, I mean, you could go to a village and collect 100 at a time, but you'd have to go to 100 villages to get 10,000 troops. Best that you go to an actual city to accumulate, to recruit 10,000 people. That's a lot of paperwork. That's a lot of interviews, handshakes, and armor fitting. So it's going to take you an entire 3 months to get that many butts and chairs, basically. So a larger metropolis has a larger population. You can accumulate more people more quickly. Let's see, recruit time, minimum population. DC, time, right. Let's see, the DC and time represents the process of recruiting soldiers into the army. A lifestyle must be maintained during the recruit process to retain the recruited soldiers. So you have to expend resources or have a supply chain established or be stationed inside of a settlement that can provide resources for you to be able to maintain a lifestyle that's sufficient for the size of the army that you need. And again, the size of the army we have here, like if I want to have 100 troops, then I'm basically going to be expending three points. It's 1 point for poor, 2 points for modest, 3 points for comfortable, 4 points for wealthy, and 5 bastion points per turn for aristocratic. And they aren't, if you're in a settlement or have a supply chain established, these points aren't destroyed. They're just basically tapped and maintained week to week while you go through the process of recruiting all these people. if you are out in the wilderness and basically stealing people from settlements to form an army, you're going to have to plunder that settlement to steal resources from it for you to consume and destroy to maintain the necessary amount of provisions and lifestyle for that size of population that you're attempting to amass into an army. You know what? So maybe instead I would word it as cost, BP cost, because I don't want to misinterpret like 100 troops are living comfortably while only one is living poorly. That I can see a narrative disconnect there. So let's fix that. There, BP per turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. The BP per turn. Yeah. Yeah, like if I want to have, yeah, that makes sense. Let's see, hold on. Maintain, there we go. Maintain per turn. Multiply the maintain cost by the rank of the army. For example, 50 third rank. For example, 50 first rank Drow soldiers requires 2 Bastion points, 2 BP, per turn to maintain, while 53rd rank Drow Driders requires 6 BP per turn to maintain. There we go. So it's expensive. So you have to have a lot of resources available to be able to afford all of this. That's a good reason why you would tax bastions inside of your settlement to be able to maintain a standing army of 10,000 soldiers in Waterdeep, for instance. Because it's even at first rank, 10,000 is going to cost 5 Bastion points per turn just to maintain them. There you go. Multiple Bastions can contribute. Recruiting and maintain soldiers. Army rank, max troops. Recruit time, minimum population. Recruit DC. The DC and time represents the process of recruiting soldiers into an army. A lifestyle must be maintained. During the recruit process, retain recruited soldiers. Recruiting armies of higher rank creatures has a minimum DC, recruit DC. Let's see. Recruiting armies of higher rank creatures has a recruit. Let's see. The DC to recruit armies of higher rank creatures is is equal to the rank of creatures or size of the army, whichever is higher. For example, recruiting an army of 53rd rank Driders is a recruit DC of 20. Third rank, not 15, 50 Driders. Time to recruit is still determined. That's horrible language, but it's still determined by the number of creatures recruited. So, the DM decides if a settlement has enough the DM decides if a settlement has enough higher rank creatures to recruit, potentially creating an adventure hook to locate the desired creatures to form an army. For example, there could be an enclave of Driders near Menzo Baranzin, but to recruit a total of 50 Driders, the other 20 may be scattered across the Underdark in separate and independent hunting packs that need to be located and recruited separately to reach a total of 50. For example, let's see. Issuing orders. So, timer. I've got a move map. Here we go. I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna take it up here to establishing trade routes. settlements. Maintain lifestyle. Governing bastions. Where are you at? I should have trade routes laying around here somewhere. It must be folded in here somewhere. Hold on, I gotta go find it. Trade routes, here we go. Well, under construction, army must be sustained at the location of the structure and establish a trade route of sufficient quality to sustain the rank of materials. If the trade route's quality drops, let's see. Recruit. Harvesting materials. Oh, wait. That's right, because I pushed the trade order up here into establishing trade routes up here. Hold on. Let's go. Research, recruiting, research, trade. That's right. Trade within a settlement. Establishing a trade route. Here we go. So there's a basic order now. While settlements and bastions that occupy space within a settlement have the resources needed to issue the maintain order to determine lifestyle, bastions that are beyond the reach of a settlement must establish a trade route to restock provisions and trade for goods and services. To establish a trade route, the trade order is issued to the bastion instead of the maintain order, making a bastion check without using an order to do so. The result of the DC determines the quality of lifestyle that can be maintained for the bastion. The duration to establish a trade route is determined by the distance to a settlement that maintains the minimum quality of lifestyle divided by the distance the trade route can cover each turn. Type of trade route, distance per turn. Marching on foot. The wagon, it's 200 miles per bastion turn. Again, a bastion turn is typically a week. Mounted riders, 300 miles in a turn. Ocean voyages. Seaworthy, how about that? Seaworthy ships. Can do 1,000 miles in a week. Infernal war machines from Descent into Avernus, they can do 3,000 miles per week. And if you have pilots running the ship, running the Infernal war machines 24 hours a day, you can triple that up to roughly 10,000 miles. Airships like in Eberron, they can do 5,000 miles per bastion turn, or basically 5,000 miles per week. And they're like seaworthy ships. They just keep going. They're just riding the wave, right? They're just by sails. You don't have to have a specific pilot to make airships go. But Spelljammers and Infernal War Machines do. So a Spelljammer ship can do 200 million miles per bastion turn, which can be issued 3 times if you have pilot cover 24 hours a day. You can triple that to roughly 6 million miles. You can do 100 million miles per day of continuous 24-hour flight. So if you have round-the-clock piloting of your ship, you can do a total of 6 million miles per day with some float time in between there, roughly a day's worth of float time. For example, a Bastion. Let's see. For example, a Bastion within 100 miles of a settlement maintaining a comfortable lifestyle can establish a trade route with wagons during one Bastion turn, while a settlement maintaining an aristocratic lifestyle for 100 miles away can establish a trade route with wagons in 2 Bastion turns. Bastion points can be expended. Each Bastion turn spent establishing a trade route must make a Bastion check for the lifestyle. Must make a lifestyle check. Each Bastion turn spent establishing a trade route must make a Bastion check. DC equal to the quality of lifestyle you attempt to establish. If the check fails, a complication occurs and the trade route is delayed until the complication is resolved. Bastion points can be expended to sustain the trade order for multiple terms. So once you succeed the die roll, if you expend points, you can sustain it for a longer period of time. So if it only takes 2 weeks for us to set up an aristocratic lifestyle with a community that's 400 miles away, because we're establishing a wagon train to supply materials to us, and that's an aristocratic lifestyle that I want to maintain. That's a DC 30. So if I don't hit that DC 30, I ran into a complication with my trade route. But if I hit that DC 30, I could spend 5 Bastion points to keep that roll for the following week. So the 2 weeks are covered by that one die roll because I've expended 2 Bastion points to sustain it. Hey, what's up? Adam, hey. Hell yeah, man. I love Spelljammer. You know that. You've been here before. We've looked at the Spelljammer thing together. I love this shit. Yeah, Spelljammer is super fun. So yeah, you can create trade routes like between Rock of Brawl and Faerun. It rounds up to 200,000 miles away. So you could easily, within a week, like one Bastion turn is a week, so you could easily establish a new trade route between Rock of Brawl and, say, I don't know, El Terrell, for instance. You could establish a trade route between those two. If El Terrell has some sort of unique materials, either animal, plant, or mineral materials that Rock of Brawl finds themselves wanting that doesn't exist on that rock already, then they would have to go find a source. And if it happens to be on Faerun, the speed of the ships would be able to easily cover the 200,000 mile distance. So within a week, you could establish a trade route, assuming that you succeed on the die roll and don't have any complications. While in El Terrell, if you're trying to maintain an aristocratic lifestyle or establish an aristocratic lifestyle level of trade with El Terrell, the DC is 30. If something goes wrong, either your ships get intercepted by like Zarax's star moths that are attacking the planet or something, and they're trying to keep you away, so that delays your caravan, or it could be like when you get to El Terrell, they try to impound your ships because you didn't follow docking protocols, and now your ships are being impounded, so you can't establish the trade route because your crew has been arrested and the ships are impounded. So that would then stimulate either a jail heist or a negotiation of return or whatever it is that you need to do to free up your fleet. Obviously, if you do a jail heist, you're going to piss off El Terrell even more, and they will be completely unwilling to trade with you, which means that you would probably want to go find another place that can provide that material. But if you had to go to Elturel for a specific reason, you're going to have to deal with them on their own terms, creating a potential adventure for your characters. And at the end of that adventure, it would take place during the course of the Bastion turn, and at the end of that turn, and the adventure concludes, you'll not only have completed the adventure and get whatever it is you get out of that, but you'll have also resolved the complications. So now you have that trade line established between Rock of Brawl and Elturel, and now you can start building a network, like building trust between Rock of Brawl and Elturel, and potentially building some sort of partnership up. So like when Descent into Avernus occurs and it's pulled down into Hell, maybe your team goes into the Death Pit or into the Hell Pit, like in a damselfly ship loaded up with guns. And so when you see Elturel suspended above the River Styx by chains, you're now looking at Elturel as a settlement bastion with the Blood War, the demons as a third rank. Like I don't know. Let's look at what's the size of the army. Hold on. Blood War, right? Let's say a thousand demons versus 3,000 devils. So they would both be in the 4th rank, but the demons are barely 4th rank, because 31 points equals 1,000. If they drop down below 1,000, they're now only going to be 3rd rank, while the devils in Descent into Avernus would have like a 4th rank army. Well, that makes sense, because the demons are invading Avernus to try to take Elturel away from the devils, but Zariel had already planned for Elturel to be there, so naturally she has more resources accumulated, and that troop of 3,000 devils, they could have 1,000 of them protecting Elturel, and then having like one side of the River Styx have a force of 1,000 troops, and the other side of the River Styx have another force of 1,000 troops. And meanwhile, the demons come in with their initial 1,000 troops and they get beat out. So they have to fall back. They call in for reinforcements. Maybe 7 Bastion turns later, while you're running inside of Descent into Avernus and doing your Hell Wasp stuff and the crawling bazaar and fucking around with Grazit and stuff, 7 weeks later or 7 Bastion turns later, the demons show up with 5,000 troops, and now the devils are outnumbered by the demons 3,000 to 5,000, and now maybe you have to work with Zariel to defend Elturel from being overwhelmed by demons. And if you play your card right, maybe Zariel's forces will have been weakened enough that you can start using your Spelljammer ship and the Infernal War Machines that you've been accumulating to push them off of Elturel altogether. And then, since you've got the resources with the Rock of Brawl established, maybe you don't need to go rescue the angel from the bloated pit. You can instead have a bunch of carrier ships come in and literally lift Elturel back into Toril and just basically seal the hole by having Elturel block it out. So like you could create a different solution for how to save Elturel in Descent into Avernus. But you had to go through all this affair of like fighting off the demons and the devils to clear them from Elturel. Like getting Elturel out of Avernus wasn't the problem. The problem was that there's so fucking many devils and demons crawling all over it that if you lifted it up back into Toril, you're basically just spilling a bunch of demons and devils into the prime material plane for them to assault. You know, like 500 of them could decide to get together and go destroy Baldur's Keep and then assault Waterdeep. And now you've got like a 4th rank, like 500 4th rank demons that are attacking 10,000 1st rank humans. That could be a really ugly standoff. So like that's how you can change the narrative stuff, by implementing these sort of things. Commanding army size, recruiting. So we got through recruiting. Now we're looking at let's see, issuing orders could technically be broken up between conflicts of siege and sabotage. Let's see. Let's go with mobilize and settled. So mobilize and settle. And then the rest of that can get dropped down into siege and sabotage. No, wait. Mobilize, settle, and recruiting and maintaining soldiers. At the beginning of each bastion turn. All right, so let's go with mobilizing and settling armies. At the beginning of each bastion turn, an army is ordered to mobilize or settle. While mobilized, the army can be issued orders to move, scout, attack, and plunder. While settled, the army cannot move. Instead, bastion facilities sustained within the army can be issued orders. In addition to the army can attack, defend, and restore troops. Attack, plunder, and restore. I was thinking about comments for harvesting to like hunter, like to gather, to forage, but the size of troops is ridiculous for foraging. So we're just gonna stick with the trade route narrative. Once you establish a trade route, you're good to go. Movement. So let's take mobilize. Let's take the move information and push it up into mobilize. Maybe we organize it. Maybe we call it like this. Where are we at? Governing bastions and settlements. Let's go with armies, sieges, and sabotage. And let's make it a little bit bigger here. Armies are mobile settlements under the command of a bastion, a pirate fleet, a tribe of horseback nomads, and a merchant caravan are examples of armies. To form an army, a bastion must expend bastion points and issue the recruit order to acquire NPCs or monsters as troops. Expend bastion points and issue the craft order to install a government facility within a mobile structure, like a ship, wagon, or a yurt within an army's camp that can be transported with the army when it mobilizes. Army size. The size of an army is determined by the number of bastion points an army has and the lifestyle and the... No, I don't need that. The size of, yeah, it's simply determined by the size of the army. Armies default to first rank, recruiting higher rank monsters. To maintain armies, sufficient lifestyle for an army. Tell me timer. Army, comma, multiply the maintain cost by the rank of the army. For example, 51st rank draw soldiers requires 2 bastion points per turn to maintain. Here, 10 to 100 total troops. And then the maintain per turn. BP per turn. For example, a rank 2 Bastion can command an army of 51st ranked Drow requiring 15 Bastion points, while an army of 53rd ranked Rider require 45 Bastion points, requiring a rank 5 Bastion. To maintain sufficient lifestyle for an army, let's go with maintaining an army. To maintain sufficient lifestyles, to maintain sufficient provisions and comfort for an army, multiply the maintain cost. Multiply the BP per turn cost by the rank of the army. For example, 51st ranked Drow requires 2, while 53rd ranked Riders require 6 BP per turn to maintain. Multiple Bastions can contribute Bastion points to form an army, recruiting and maintaining the soldiers. Army size, recruiting and maintaining. There. That's the proper place for that. And comfort. Good. Mobilizing and settling armies. That's the next logical step. Okay, so by melting these, by blending these two sections together, armies, sieges, and sabotage, I can remove that section and just blend and then just bleed them together. So we'll get through the difference between mobilizing and settling. Settling an army, mobilizing an army. Mobilizing and settling armies. At the beginning of each Bastion turn, an army is ordered to an army is issued a free order to mobilize or settle. While mobilized, the army can be issued. I'm going to break that up. Like that. Mobilizing. While mobilized, the army can issue. While mobilized, an army can move over land to new locations and be issued a limited set of orders. And order and the army can be issued orders to scout, attack, plunder, and restore troops. Scout, attack, plunder, and restore troops. The distance an army can move during a Bastion turn is determined by the mode of by the method of movement, by the type of movement. And then we'll go back up here to the trade to grab that list again. Go back down. Type of mobilization. Type of mobility. How about that? Marching on foot. Again, same thing. 100 feet, 100 miles per Bastion on foot. 200 miles in a wagon. 300 on just mounted riders. 1,000 by seaworthy ships. Up to 10,000 if you have a full crew running infernal war machines. 5,000 miles in an airship of continuous flight. And then Spelljammer ships if you have a full rotation of pilots for your fleet or ship. It would be 200 miles for a single shift or up to 600 miles for round-the-clock flight. As detailed below. Hold on. I feel like I need to put in space occupied. Up to 100 is 1 mile. Space occupy radius. One-mile radius. 10-mile radius, 50-mile radius, 100-mile radius. Instead of being 1 mile radius, this would be 500 foot. There. So the size of your army is going to determine the maximum size space that basically that army occupies. So if you've got troops of 10,000 plus soldiers, basically you're going to have scouts and awareness of things around that army up to potentially 100 miles away. That might be too far. Hold on. 5 miles, 10 miles, 50 miles. That feels better. So up to 10 guys, a 500-foot radius would make sense for like scouting and just general awareness of other sizable threats in the area. An army of up to 100 troops could reasonably have scouting up to a mile away. Up to 1,000 troops could have reasonable scouting up to 5 miles away. Up to 10,000 troops up to 10 miles away. And if you've got over 10,000 troops, a potential scouting range of over 50 miles. So basically, actually what we should probably do is put reach. There you go. So a troop of a squad of 10 troops has an effective combat reach of 500 feet. That's a better way of putting it. Effective combat reach of 1 mile. Effective combat reach of 5 miles. So if a target, if an enemy is within 5 miles of your army, you would be able to effectively target them for combat. You could attack them or plunder them or whatever. And if you got 10,000 plus troops, something that's within 50 miles of you would be threatened by that 10,000 troop army. That feels about right. I like that. All right. Let's see. Yeah, it's army size. Reach. Reach represents the effective space occupied by the army. Like if I have 10,000 troops in Waterdeep, they're going to need a chunk of land to hang out on. Otherwise, things are going to get a little weird. Armies default, recruiting, maintaining, that's good, that's good. Mobilizing an army. When mobilized, an army can move overland to new locations, and the army can be issued orders to attack, to scout, attack, plunder, and restore troops as detailed below. The distance an army can move during a Bastion turn is determined by the type of movement, type of mobility, when an army moves within reach of another army, bastion, or settlement within reach. The army movement is considered difficult terrain, reducing movement by half in that area. And the and scouts can notice each other. That's horrible language. So we'll have this. We'll have the scouting action further down here. Sieges, sabotage. Come on, kiddo. Where are you at? Plunder, recover. Let's drop it in here for now until we find a better way to organize. Scout. Scouts. Let's see. I'm thinking passive perception. An army can be. An army has a passive perception score that can detect creatures and armies. You can detect creatures, bastions, and settlements within its listed reach as above. Scale, perception. It's going to be scale is also on a rank of 1 to 5. Perception is 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. That doesn't seem right. Let's see. Let's switch that up. An army has a passive stealth score that a creature, army, bastion, or settlement let's frame this better. Scouting. Let's see. Issue the scouting order to move ahead of an army up to the travel distance per turn to discover any creatures, armies, bastions, or settlements that may pose a threat to the army. The rank of the army, the rank of the scouts, determine the bastion check, the D20 modifier, scout rank, D20 mod. Plus 1d4 plus 1 plus 1d6 plus 2 plus 1d8 plus 3 plus 1d10 plus 4 plus 1d12 plus 5. So like if we had that Drider army, it would take 45 points to recruit them, which means we're 5th rank, which means we could also afford 5th rank scouts, which could just be normal, which could be Driders that are specialized in scouts. So we would then be able to send these Drider scouts out forward, where let's say Driders have the mobility of mounted riders. So Driders would have a 300-mile range. So during a Bastion turn, if you issue the scout order to an army of Driders, they would be able to get a feel for, is there anything threatening within 300 miles of their position during that turn. And so that way they wouldn't be caught by surprise. Scout rank, D20 mod. The scale of a creature, army, bastion, or settlement that can be a threat or a settlement. Let's see, the scale of a creature, army, bastion, or settlement determines the difficulty to be discovered by scouts. Scale, let's see. Troops. All right, this is my last 20 minutes for the night. Then we'll come back and we'll keep doing this. We'll get into attacks, sabotage and sieges, attacking and defending on Thursday when we return. But I'm going to finish out this thought process here. Up to 10, up to 100, up to 1K, up to 10K, up to... actually, this would be 10K or more. Hamlet. Village, town, city, metro. And Metropolis are automatically noticed. So that's the scout order. The plunder order is when an army damages a settlement, the plunder issuing the plunder order converts damage dealt to the settlement into Bastion points that are consumed to maintain the army. If the deal damage. If the target settlement is of equal rank to the scale of the army, the damage dealt, the number of Bastion points. No, I had it right the first time. The damage dealt is converted to Bastion points. If the target settlement is a lower rank than the scale of the army, regardless of damage dealt, the target settlement can only provide 1 Bastion point per rank. For example, if a third rank, if an army of 1,200 soldiers, at fourth rank, hold on. That'd be effectively 32 points. That'd be fourth rank. Fourth rank scale. For example, if an army of 1,200 soldiers, let's just round it off to 2,000. An army of 2,000 soldiers, fourth rank scale. Attacks a second rank settlement, attacks a town, second rank settlement, the army deals 1d10 plus 4 damage, but can only plunder 2 Bastion points. If instead the fourth rank scale army attacks a city, 4th rank settlement. The army deals and plunders 1d10 plus 4 Bastion points. Bastion points of damage. There you go. Because the cost of Bastion points is a different magnitude. So it's like 100 gold pieces at 1st rank, 1,000 at 2nd, 10,000 at 3rd, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, and 1,000,000. So that's expensive. Each Bastion point is crazy expensive in gold value. So if a 4th rank army that's operating at the 4th rank, which is effectively each Bastion point is basically worth 10,000 gold each, attacks a town where each Bastion point is worth effectively 1,000 points each, that army of 10,000 soldiers would have to wipe out the entire town to be able to have enough resources to do anything. So that's why if the army outranks the settlement that's being plundered, the settlement is only providing a couple, like just 1, 2, 3, 4 points to the army. But if it's of an equal rank, so if a 4th rank army is attacking a 4th rank settlement, like 10,000 soldiers are attacking a town, a city of 100,000 population, then the rank and the scale are the same. So the Bastion point that's creating that city is as valuable as it is to maintain an army of 10,000 soldiers. So when the ranks are the same, the Bastion points, the actual amount of damage that you deal to the city, can be directly converted into Bastion points that can be consumed by the army to maintain its lifestyle if it doesn't have a trade route established. If you establish a trade route with an army, that while that trade route remains, or a supply chain, while that remains attached, you don't have to worry about plundering to gain resources. But every time you move an army further away from the source of your supplies, there's a week delay, and you have to re-roll the supply chain to extend it further, which could create complications in overextending the supply chain that halts that basically stops the army's movement until that new distance can be established in the supply chain. So it creates a time delay in being able to, like, you can't just march an army of 10,000 soldiers from Waterdeep to Am, because the supply chain needed to do that is massive. And there's any number of problems that could arise during that process. And every time the supply chain gets cut, those 10,000 soldiers now run out of food, and they either have to plunder nearby communities, and if they're allies, then basically it'd be them willingly giving up Bastion points to feed this army. But if they're of a lower scale than the army that's marching through, then they can just wipe out that whole village and it wouldn't make a difference to them. So so you have to make sure you have that supply chain established so you can continue pushing your troops further out. Or once you get into enemy territory, you can start just tearing apart enemy settlements to consume them for plunder, so that you can feed your army as you continue moving into enemy territories. So in that sense, you could convert Faerun into a grid of, well, depending on the scale that you're operating at, like 50 miles perhaps. And then every 50 miles of marching, it'd be what? On foot, it'd be 100 miles. So every 100 miles square of movement from Waterdeep towards Am, that would be another. You'd have to continue to establish a supply chain to keep moving forward. So that's the idea. If you have a very small army, like if you have a 3rd rank army, it would be, what is it, a week, month, season. So a third rank army would be a month that you could maintain a supply chain, which means I could have 4 turns of movement extending the supply chain. But at the end of those 4 turns, I would then have to make another trade route check to see if I can continue to maintain the supply chain. And if I fail that die roll in a third rank army like that, it would be a DC 20. So if I don't hit at least a DC 20 on extending the reach of my supply chain, a complication arises and my supply chain gets cut. So I can't move my army forward until I resolve the complication. So if you're running an army campaign with your characters, the complication that arises of having your supply chain cut, that could be an adventure that your players decide that's a worthwhile mission for us to go on. We're going to make an adventure out of that. And that becomes your weekly Bastion adventure of going back and securing, maybe, like depending on what the die rolls do, maybe your supply chain got ambushed by the enemy. And that's why your supply chain got severed. So now you have to scrimmage with this little raiding party that's sabotaging your supply chain. It's specifically targeting those bastion points that are maintaining the army. That would be a sabotage effort, which means that you've got a small crew that has somehow like damaged the wagons or disrupted weather or collapsed a bridge or something that's preventing the supply chain from being able to get supplies to the army while it's mobilized. So now you have to go through with the adventurers, revolve how did the sabotage happen, what can you do to fix the sabotage at the moment, and resolve the saboteurs so they don't just do it again next turn. And if you can complete that as your mission, you'll automatically reconnect the supply chain, and your army can move forward for another 4 bastion turns, another 400 miles towards wherever it is that they're going, if that makes sense. So obviously the higher speed of mobility that you have, the more distance you can cover, and the higher rank of the higher rank of supplies that you can provide to your army, the longer you can sustain that supply chain without it being severed. So that's the idea. So, but that's all the time I have for tonight. I need to bail out of here. It's almost 9 o'clock here in Seattle. It's time for me to do some artwork on the side, and then cool down for me to catch some sleep, for me to be back tomorrow morning to continue with more Eberron art. Tomorrow at lunch, around 2:30 Seattle time, which will be 3:12, that's 15, 17 hours from now, 17 and a half hours from now, we'll be back on. We're going to continue working on the Dark Sun UA that came out for the Unearthed Arcana last week. We're currently converting the Fighter Gladiator into the Martial Power System, and then we'll work on the Druid Circle of Preservation, converting that into the Color Mana system. And we probably won't have time to get done with that. So on Friday we'll come back. We'll finish the Druid and start in on the Sorcerer, the Defiler Sorcerer, and then probably Tuesday next week we'll probably finish the Defiler and get into the Templar Warlock, and have the Templar Warlock finished a week from Friday to complete the Dark Sun kit. We'll be back here Thursday night to work on, now that we're figuring out scouting, movement, the next thing we're going to do is attacking and defending and then restoring troops and resources. So that'll be the last components that we need for finishing out army, and then we're going to go over it to help clean it up and simplify it a little bit. So by the end of Thursday we should have armies, sieges, and sabotage resolved. And so a week from today, Monday night, when we come back to continue with the Bastion campaign. So Thursday we'll finish up armies, sieges, and sabotage, and then Monday next week we'll get into Bastion events and complications. And once we get through that, probably through Thursday next week, that means two Mondays from now, our second draft will be finished, and then we're going to go back into the document again and start looking for examples of everything that we do in here. We're going to create examples to create a fat mosaic of ideas that people can hopefully start grokking how this works, and we'll probably build like a mini camp, like a cascade of consequences and actions of creating a bastion and a settlement, and then having an army, and then being attacked by a neighboring community, and then counterattacking them, and establishing trade routes. Like, we'll see if we can go through all those processes in a narrative to understand how the bastion system kind of builds and works. So, next 2 weeks we should be done. We should be done with the second draft of the bastion system. And we'll be looking for an editor at that point, probably. And then at the end of those 2 weeks, we'll also be done with the Dark Sun Unearthed Arcana content, having updated that for martial powers and the color mana system that we've been playtesting. And that'll give me another 2 weeks to get some more Eberron artwork done. We've got about 10 illustrations left for the Eberron book. Plus, tomorrow we're going to start working on filigree, frames, and background textures for the pages. It should be fun. And I don't know. That means that we should be reaching some sort of transition for the Bastion campaign book, probably late September. Yeah, probably mid or late September, October. That's probably when we'll be able to hand it off to an editor to clean up, to kick back to us, and we can start looking at doing page layouts and build, so that because this is going to be some rewriting when we get it back, so when we do, that should line up that once the Eberron adventure publishes, we'll be ready to do page layouts and start artwork for the Bastion campaign, and that'll be the next book that we publish after the Eberron adventure. Nice, and that'll open up some design space for us to work on the color mana system rebuild for 2024. We can start prepping the Storm King's Thunder Spelljammer Mega Kaiju campaign that we're looking to run. We'll be able to start prepping that for the new year once we finish the Mega Dungeon for the martial power system. I think this is all going to fold together really nicely. But that's it for now. I'll be back in the morning. I hope you all have a good night. I really appreciate everyone who's stopped by and checking this out. If you think this stuff is cool, I do this type of stuff 9 times a week, either artwork or design work. So like, subscribe, bell, check out my books down below. Be welcome to join my Discord community, no cost. Thanks a lot for being here. See you on the other side. Cheers.